Hello, Contrarians listeners. Here we are with the latest Contrarians warm up, a dino sized warm up. Yes, we have sped up all the way to the end of the Jurassic Park / World franchise, courtesy of patron Chaz Fisher, who has tasked us with giving Jurassic World Dominion the Contrarians treatment. And that means that we're going to be really positive about it on the Contrarians Corner part of the show, because this movie's at 29%. It's rotten. So many of you out there, especially those of you who have critics accounts with Rotten Tomatoes, just green splotch. Here on this video, we're going to prepare you for the episode by reading some rotten quotes, sharing some trivia, and also, because why not, we're going to place Josh Gad during the Josh Gad Minute. We're going to cast him on Jurassic World Dominion. And Alex, I'm going to tell you right away, you can't cast him as a dinosaur. He has to play a human part.
Yeah, I'm going to need your help with this one.
Really? You've already forgotten, like, all the characters are blended together?
Kind of, but we're going to have to collaborate on where he fits in. And also, as we joked to begin with, I cannot believe the entire, over 2 hours episode we did on this movie, we did not once make the joke about Richard Jenkins and Step Brothers wanting to be a dinosaur and how he should have been cast in this. That just came to mind, and we failed each other and our listening audience by not referencing Richard Jenkins being a dinosaur in Jurassic World Dominion.
We had bigger fish to fry. We had bigger dinosaurs to fry.
To be a dinosaur. I wanted to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex more than anything in the world. I made my arms short, and I roamed the backyard, and I chased the neighborhood cats, and I growled, and I roared. Everybody knew me and was afraid of me.
You're human. You could never be a dinosaur.
Hey, I lost it.
But I guess just the Richard Jenkins half a minute would be, he would be replacing Campbell Scott, right? That would be it.
No. He would be a dinosaur.
Oh, you wanted to be a dinosaur.
He would be like one of the raptors, spoiler alert, one of the raptors at the end that takes out Steve Jobs. It would just be Richard Jenkins back there. Like,
very different movie, but sure, why not?
Just at that point in the movie, I don't think anyone would have cared, to be honest.
Like, is that Richard Jenkins? Oh, it's over. Back to Sam Neill. All right, so let's start with the quotes. Got 4 rotten quotes, starting with Federico Furzan from Go See Talk, who says, "An ugly franchise entry that feels like a contractual obligation by an employee full of hatred. Easily the worst film in the JP universe." You've seen 5 out of the 6, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the worst?
As we talk about in the episode, I retained no knowledge from The Lost World Part 2. It's not good.
I think that a more interesting exercise is ranking the children of each movie. Because every movie, every Jurassic movie has children that are, getting into trouble, not listening, and that's why things start. So
as we talk about the episode as well, I give 3 a whole runway of slack because of the poster and how good the poster was.
Rank the posters. How can you get better than the poster for Dominion that has worlds colliding? It's Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Omar Sy. I don't know who the third person is there, and then you have the original trio.
I'll tell you how. You have the Jurassic Park logo, and it's the 3rd movie, so the 3 is a raptor strike through the poster. It's fantastic.
So if this one had like 2 claws, so you have 6 strikes.
Yeah, why not?
Let's move on to Jackie K. Cooper from JackieKCooper.com, who says, "For the final film of a very successful franchise, you expect more, much more." Is this the final film? I don't think so.
Did she see Rise of Skywalker?
Expectations have been lowered. We're
Matrix Revolutions.
Subterranean at this point. You should be happy.
Jason X. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
No. Yeah. Also, it's like, it looks like a guy. Like Jackie Gleason.
I'm sorry.
Jackie Onassis.
I don't mean to misgender anybody out there. You should watch Freddy Lives, the last official Nightmare on Elm Street entry with Robert Englund. That's trash. But at that point, we're never gonna top Rise of Skywalker,
right?
It's fucking Star Wars, and it's the last one in the original saga, and it just shit the bed, man. And so, yeah, by comparison, Jurassic World looks like fucking Gone with the Wind.
Yep. And they can still keep going. Like, Rise of Skywalker closed the door. They killed everybody.
Yeah.
Here, Sam Neill's still alive. Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, like their characters can move on, have more adventures.
And some of us wanted Sam Neill and Laura Dern to kiss at the end, like our male and female lead.
Yeah, it's been building up apparently. All right, next, Bob Grimm from Reno News and Review says, not enough dinosaurs and too much BD Wong, all sad in a frumpy sweater. Taking a shot at BD Wong.
He is very sad and dumpy in this movie.
You know, we were talking about maybe consolidating some characters so that, you know, some people like Omar Sy could get more screen time. I think BD Wong, I mean, I like him as an actor, but maybe he didn't need to be in this movie, and you could have just given that role to fold that part to somebody else's. Like the guy that ends up being a good guy, but you thought he was going to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
That guy could have played the BD Wong role, like expand his part.
Ramsey Cole.
Yeah, there you go.
Mamoudou Athi. I go through this in the episode trying to pronounce his name, and I'm always bad with pronunciations. But the gentleman who played Ramsey Cole, yes, I agree.
He's good. He required more screen time, I think.
That's what Michael Bay did with Pain and Gain. Like The Rock's character, and that is just a composite of other people from around the time. It's like, this part of this guy is interesting, but this isn't. This is kind of, let's just make one guy out of this. It's going to be all right. Have
him wear the sweater that BD Wong is wearing, and that's it. That's that part of the character.
The Rock would just, be like a baby shirt on him.
All right, and finally, Chris Wasser from Sunday Independent, Ireland, says, it is, I'm sorry to say, like watching your favorite band reunite on the world's biggest stage, only to discover that their instruments are out of tune and the roadies have gone home.
Okay, that's a bit dramatic. Again, it's not Rise of Skywalker.
That's what that was. But okay, so can you imagine you go see Springsteen? You're a big Springsteen fan. We've had Springsteen conversations recently, and he puts on a terrible show.
Never happened. And also that wouldn't be like a reunion show because the E Street Band's been touring together forever. So I will raise your analogy to Oasis finally does a reunion show.
Okay.
And I fucking go to Wembley Stadium or some shit to see it, and they go up there, and I mean Liam's voice is gone to begin with, but Noel hits the guitar and it's just completely out of tune. Some of the amps aren't working. So
they're drunk. Well, they're always drunk.
I think Noel's sober.
And that's why he sucks. Like, he's sober, so he can't really get into it.
Who knows at this point? But yeah, it's Guns N' Roses at the 2002 Video Music Awards. It was just Axl and fuck the keyboardist, I forget his name. But yeah, I understand the analogy they're trying to make. That's the one where Axl was, I'm not making fun of anyone's weight because I'm a fatty too, but Axl's blown up like 30 seconds into the set, and he's and that's like what this is they have the dinosaurs around, and then they run out of ideas, so they're like, well, let's make the T-Rex walk in front of this fountain to make it look like the Jurassic Park logo.
It's beautiful. Iconic.
That's the equivalent of hit Paradise City now.
Let's go from Paradise City to Josh Gad City. Let's cast Josh Gad here. It's a Josh Gad minute.
I have no idea. I always, like, every time we do this now, I have like an idea of where he would go. And I guess maybe he could be the bad guy, Dodgson.
I'll take it. I mean, that would be, here's the thing. You can't touch the original trio, and you can't touch Chris Pratt or Bryce Dallas Howard, because the whole point of the movie is that they have to come together. So you can't have a new actor there.
And the only real, like, side character where it would be like, hey, it's Josh Gad, would be Barry, and I ain't taking Omar Sy out of this movie. So
what if Josh Gad replaces the pilot?
Yeah, you could
brand
do that.
New character.
There's a higher probability of, like, the intended response in that is obviously comedy, where that woman's like, this plane is my child, and this situation they get into. DeWanda Wise, the whole thing with that is DeWanda Wise is fucking beautiful, and when I was watching this, I was just like, no. In a movie where dinosaurs exist, I don't believe this part of the movie, that this gorgeous woman like has this plane that,
I need to
you know,
focus,
yeah.
please.
So you get, 5 o'clock shadow, maybe even bearded Josh Gad looking really disheveled and kind of like
Shaved head.
conspiracy theory type look, and this beaten down, dilapidated plane is all that he has left that ties him to the world. I could believe that. Again, DeWanda Wise, beautiful, perfect hair. No,
Too much.
Yeah. So yeah, let's do that. We can find something for her. Like we talk about in the episode, she's been on and is going on to some pretty bigger and brighter things, some green pastures. She's going to be in a movie directed by Chris Pine, which is going to have to be a learning experience one way or the other. But Kayla is the character's name. The former U.S. Air Force pilot who aids Owen and Claire on the. Yeah, come on. He's a veteran, and he's put on a few lbs since the war, and he's just very, protective of who he allows on.
Yeah,
I think Gad could pull that off. Yeah,
there you go. That wasn't that hard. We didn't have to entertain the idea that he might be a dinosaur. We found a human to be played by Josh Gad,
and to keep her in the fray, DeWanda Wise could be the woman that brokers the deal of like the kid getting kidnapped and bringing.
Okay,
and
the mercenary. Yeah,
the character from the Matrix that's in this movie. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And she gets to face off against the Marseille, so it all works out. Yeah. All right. Happy. Everybody happy except the woman that played that mercenary, because now she's out of the job.
Well, she should have been more memorable.
All right. Well, Alex, what trivia do you have for us?
Well, this movie made a lot of fucking money. Jurassic World Dominion premiered in Mexico City on May 23rd of 2022 and was released in the United States by Universal Pictures on June 10th of 2022. We discuss a bit in the episode the relatively complicated streaming rights that were handed out to this movie. I think if I remember correctly, we both start laughing because it sounds fake. Like
Yep.
when we're explaining what the actual like distribution rights were of this. But for a while was available on Peacock. Now is available on Amazon Prime. Whatever the case, this movie isn't even a year old, and that quick to streaming release didn't really do shit because this movie made over $1 billion. We talk about in the episode there was a decline. You can maybe use the word steady. I have a hard time using that when we're dealing in billions. With a B. But there was a decline from World to Fallen Kingdom to Dominion, but still made $1 billion off a budget.
Out of those three, Dominion, I guess, is the only one that has an extended version that you have to pay for if you want. So I think that in a way it's making more money than the other two.
To my knowledge, yes. Budget of $265 million. Not even one real dinosaur with all that money.
Could you tell, Mr. Practical Effects? I can't believe that we didn't really talk about this much in the episode.
I did. Like, one of the things I appreciate in this is the little one that they rescue is obviously like an animatronic.
Mm-hmm.
And like the one, I think it's the same one Laura Dern interacts with as an animatronic. And there's some when like Chris Pratt or whoever's like kind of coddling the head of some of them, it's clearly real. And that, look, I know they can't get a dinosaur. Something that just drives me nuts with the overabundance of CG and over reliance of CG in today's modern landscape is scenes where, Julio, I'm touching your face and we're looking eye to eye and you're not real. Like, I understand that no one could ever like train to act to respond to a dinosaur, but Laura Dern, Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, for as much as she can act, whatever they have in front of them, there's something really right there. Even if the eyes are like robotic looking back at it, it's going to ensure for more realistic.
When Sam Neill is messing with the locust.
Yeah, the one he pulls out is real. I was like, man, that would be like one of those cool things to have, kind of like the old Jason masks or the xenomorphs and like the chest burster that are all real. Don't get me wrong, Locust ain't as cool as any of that shit, but it's clearly something real and tangible he's holding in front of him. I was almost like ready to defend this from the visual perspectives part, because when shit got tight and close, they actually had practical props and, you know, animatronics for what they needed. That's cool. I don't expect them to build a horde of locusts that catch on fire and actually fly, but a little bit of effort goes a long way in today's landscape. I'm curious what they had, like if it was just what we always talk about. The one I always go to is the scene. And are there multiple Doctor Strange movies?
There's 2, but you've only seen 1.
Okay, whichever one you had me watch, you know, that's what I go to. The scene where he's doing surgery, but he's outside of his body, and Rachel McAdams is supposed to be reacting, and it's like the only time you'll ever see Rachel McAdams seem like a bad actress, because it's clear that it's just like a tennis ball in front of her face, and they're like, act to that. At the end of Dominion, when Chris Pratt, I'm just kind of curious when him and Blue have like the knowing nod back and forth at each other. They probably just had him look out into like the open and like imagine, which is
he's an actor. That's part of his training.
I'm a fucking actor, Gene. No, that honestly, that to me is better than like stare at this point. So when we do it in post-production, it makes it look like you're interacting with this. Just Chris Pratt looking out into the open and just kind of imagining what the scenario would be where this dinosaur is like. So I'm more forgiving of the practical effects in this, and it's the special effects, visual effects all around, because there are some real practical effects, and that's obviously something that franchise, specifically the original Jurassic Park, is legendary for. The melding of the two, of what we can do with technology, but also still using, there's something really in front of me. Director Colin Trevorrow says that the pause in production may have actually helped the movie. This film, of course, taking place, being filmed and produced during the height of the novel coronavirus. For many of us, Dominion was already the biggest creative challenge of our lives before the lockdown. The shooting schedule really worked to our advantage. The first 4 weeks we put into the film were mostly sequences with dinosaurs in them, so that allowed us to get a head start on the visual effects and workshop some of the newer elements without the pressure of a looming deadline.
That's right, because dinosaurs can't get COVID. So
no,
that makes sense. That's pretty smart.
Blue showing up on set with the mask. It sounds like Colin Trevorrow and his crew have used time well, getting a head start on visual effects and no doubt tweaking what they had already achieved for the better. With strict health and safety guidelines now in place, Jurassic World Dominion can finally begin filming again next month. And though Trevorrow sounds confident about the regulations keeping everyone safe, he does have some concerns about getting the most creatively out of such a rigid environment. I'm confident our guidelines will keep us safe, Trevorrow said of the protocols. The hard part will be constructing a creative environment within all the precautions. Once cameras roll, we have to forget about the world we live in for our movie. That takes some practice. Despite these feelings of trepidation, though, Trevorrow is eager to get back to the world of flesh-eating dinosaurs, as are the rest of the cast and crew. I've been really moved by the way everyone has shown support to each other. We're all fired up to get back to work. This is what we do, and we're eager to get back out there and do so. So that was an excerpt from an interview at the time of this. It's pretty ballsy for a movie that was so negatively received to say like COVID made it better. He's like, we got time to actually work on this.
Well, I mean, it really messed with our heads. So
all the creative, like the decisions made, the whole child character. I know she was introduced apparently in Fallen Kingdom, but like let's just have her be a character throughout the entire movie.
Yeah,
this is what people want to see. The New York Times had reported that production crew had spent $9 million putting safeguards into place. I love movies so much, but you got to think like at the end of the day that $9 million could have gone somewhere that wasn't a Jurassic Park movie. The money went towards renting out an entire hotel for the cast and crew to quarantine in for the remainder of the shoot. They had also established 150 hand sanitizing stations around the set and had 18,000 COVID tests. In reading some of this shit, like most of like what you're going to find about this in a trivia vacuum is about how it was filmed at the height of COVID and how they got around it. which is already kind of fascinating and interesting. The past few years and just human society in general have been very strange and fascinating, mostly in negative ways. But it really is like that whole thing of we got to get on living our lives, and that you could have just taken 2 months off
Yep.
and figured shit out. It's like the UFC. The UFC had to get back out there and start doing shows with no one. WWE, same thing. It's like, let's just kind of figure out what we're doing here before we have to make the rest of this Jurassic Park movie. But
No, it needs to come out. And it needs to come out now.
in the case of the NFL, did a little bit more in terms of like waiting to see what's going to happen. But in the case of WWE, UFC, and Jurassic World, believe me, I'm the asshole because I still got COVID and they made $1 billion. Man, imagine that. Just I'm trying to think of who would have gotten sick that like brought production to a screeching halt. Like it would have to be Chris Pratt because everyone else they could film around, but like Chris
Well,
Pratt
they have
gets
basically two sets, two casts that come together in the third act. So, let's say Pratt got
That's true.
sick, then you would do the original trio first until he got better, and then same way around.
Again, since that's like the majority of like the interesting behind the scenes stuff about this movie, there's really no way to say if that affected the end product in the end. You gotta kind of just wonder about it. I don't know if we can say definitively that rushing it and pushing it through this made it worse in the end, but it had to be more of a stressful on the job experience, don't you think? Like,
yeah. And I think I kind of like quipped about it a little bit ago, but it was to different degrees a traumatic experience for everybody. So when Trevor comes out of this thing and he starts talking about, oh well, it was all for the better. I think that's just how you cope with the fact that you weren't going through that shit for like a year or so, and
Yeah.
it's like, what are you gonna say? You can do two things. You can either acknowledge it as something that was bad, that made the movie bad, or something that you can try to spin it and say that it made the movie good, whether you believe it or not. And I think that maybe at the time he was just like, oh no, this everything turned out okay. And then maybe now with some more time behind it, he can watch the movie and be like, no, it really, we should have done better. We could have done better if we hadn't had a global pandemic kind of just railroad us.
That was your boy Jack Johnson was supposed to be in this, but
Really?
due to all the travel restrictions and everything around COVID-19, he couldn't make any of the shooting dates they needed him, and so they just had to write his character out of the movie.
And now he watches the movie, he's like, ooh.
I was in the good one, thank
Yes.
God. To kind of go back to the practical effects thing we were talking about, Laura Dern said in an interview with Time that reuniting with one of the animatronics was equally as jaw-dropping, but nothing like the first moment I walked through the field on Kauai with Sam Neill, and I looked ahead and saw a Triceratops. That was my first dinosaur, and I will love that dinosaur the most forever. Kind of what we're talking about with how insane the effects were in the first Jurassic Park.
Uh-huh.
That has to be like, as an actor, just like she calls out here, I can't imagine how memorable something like that would be. Like, getting to work on a project and Laura Dern seems cool, unlike a lot of actors and actresses, in the sense of like she seems like a person that can take the time to appreciate things. Like even Tom Cruise with all the insane shit he's done, I never stop and think that he actually like appreciates the opportunities he's given. He probably does. I'm just saying like the vibe he gives off. So like when I read or like hear Laura Dern talk about something like that, it helps me like put myself in that situation. I ain't Laura Dern, I ain't Sam Neill, but like the idea of like, this is my job, this is what I'm doing. But then the idea of stepping onto this set that is unlike anything that's ever been done in the history of the world and getting to see that before anyone else does has got to be so fucking cool, man.
You're turning the corner. Spielberg has his hands over your eyes. He's like, you ready?
He's just like right behind you, like, na, 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 na. That is so cool to read about. That's why, like, people like you and I exist, nerds about movies that go beyond just what you watch. Like you hear shit like that, you're like, that's so fucking cool. I wanted to find more about like what happened with Jeff Goldblum's part, but really all the reading I got into was about COVID-19 stuff. So if you have not seen this movie, please don't expect Jeff Goldblum to have much of anything to do in this at all.
I mean, he has more to do in this one than in Fallen Kingdom, so we're heading in the right direction.
Well, we could have just answered the own question too about like, who knows how many fucking rewrites this thing went through and like revisions that were needed just to make do with what they had on the day of shooting.
Yeah, well, that's fine because you know what? He's the games master. Is that his name? In Thor Ragnarok, and so came out on top no matter what.
All right.
Well, that
Wait, I'm sorry. I actually watched that one and I didn't even remember that. I
Yeah.
thought you were just like fucking with me, but yeah,
no, he's part of the Marvel universe. Laura
isn't at
Dern
this
and Sam
point?
Neill aren't yet, but it's only a matter of time. She's in Star
No.
Wars.
She gets Star Wars money and Jurassic Park, man. Those royalty checks, man. That's what we talked about with Kate Winslet. Laura Dern's up there with that. Just once a month or so gets a couple checks and is more money than you or I will ever make in our lifetime.
All right. Well, Laura Dern, join our patron. I'm sure there'll be some Jurassic World Dominion content there as well, and you can afford it. For all of you, that's it. That's the end of the warm-up. Now you can go and listen to the episode. Like I said, we're really nice about the movie in the first half in the Turns Corner, and then real talk. Well, you can kind of see how Alex leans, and I think I'm a little nicer about the whole thing. And then coming up next, the patron takeover continues as we delve into another sci-fi movie, only one that's not as recent. We're gonna talk about 12 Monkeys, the movie, not the TV show, and the acclaimed short film that inspired 12 Monkeys, La Jetée. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's a French 27-minute short that has a Criterion release. So should be interesting. And it's on YouTube, so you can watch that. And then, everybody's seen 12 Monkeys. If you haven't seen 12 Monkeys, watch 12 Monkeys before we do the episode. It's well worth it.
Yeah, when you posted that on our Twitter account, I thought like you meant La Jetée was part of like a shorts collection, like that has a Criterion. It has its own Criterion release.
Well, it's like it's the same filmmakers, like La Jetée, and then some other movie that he's made. And it's like the two. It might have its own disc too, but I got the 2-pack because
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I just saw like the La Jetée on there but yeah, for some directors they'll do like Michael Haneke has one that's like 3 of his movies come in one, whatnot. But yeah, I thought it was just going to be like a collection of, or that it was going to be a supplement on some other thing. But no,
it's right there.
It's so special that it gets gets top billing.
Yeah. So be ready for that. But until then, thank you for checking out the video, listen to the podcast. And this probably drops before we are at the live stream for the cure. So if this is before Saturday, May 20th, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, check us out, livestreamforthecure.com. Go to our Twitch channel. We'll be doing a Contrarian segment raising money for cancer research. So show your support. Show up there. Say hi. But that's it. Thank you again. We'll talk to you again later.